Getting started with 3D modeling was tough back in 2005, which is when I first tried 3D Studio Max. The first robot was a machine. Back then, laptops were expensive and laptops with a dedicated graphic card was even more expensive. And you need a dedicated GPU to render whatever you draw. That was a huge problem for me because I was a student back then. Second was the expensive software. I was only able to practice the modeling software 3D Studio Max in class and after class. Never at home because 3D Studio Max cost over like $1,000, which was hard to convince my parents to buy, or really any new starter to buy. The third roadblock was the tutorial. Back then, the best alternative to classes are textbooks. Literally textbooks with like images of how you should manipulate your mouse, how you should manipulate the model and everything. It was boring. And the classes that you take with software such as 3D Studio Max, you have to take notes during class. Only to find that I forget everything in the next lesson because I never get to practice at home. So now, 2020, all three roadblocks are gone. So more and more laptops have dedicated graphic cards. So the graphic cards on your laptop can do more than play games, guys and gals. And they are getting cheaper as well, assuming you are not buying one with an Apple logo at the back. The Lenovo Legion laptop that I am rendering most of my 3D animation costs roughly $700. So it's not expensive. Although it doesn't have the best graphic card out there, it is doing a great job in modeling and rendering. And just keep in mind, whenever you need to render, just do it before you fall asleep. So the next morning it should be done. Also, in choosing graphic cards, I would recommend choosing a laptop with GeForce because they work with Blender, the 3D modeling software that we will talk about next. So Blender has become one of the big players in 3D modeling communities. It is free and open source, it has a huge community and a lot of mods that cover unique functions, it has an awesome UI, it has frequent updates, and recently, Blender 2.8 was released. By recently, I mean like a few months ago. I encourage you to try it out. Oh, and all of the 3D modeling animation that you see in this channel is made by me on Blender. And I'm a beginner. It does heavily rely on shortcuts, so learn them and get used to them. The learning curve is a little bit steeper than other software, but you do gain a lot of speed and save a lot of time in exchange because you are using shortcuts and mods. Let me tell you, it's so rewarding to model something with only shortcuts because you can avoid looking at the UI and you focus on your model directly. Next, I'm going to talk about how to combat that steep learning curve that I was talking about. So there was this fast tutorial of Blender on YouTube. Even when there are new versions of Blender coming out, a lot of YouTubers still cover them. So there's no need to go to a classroom like I did like 15 years ago. The tutorial on YouTube cover most aspects of the software because some YouTubers only do tutorial on Blender. However, if you are looking at more structure and advertisement-free tutorial, I think Udemy has a few of those. And I have signed up as well. And they are relatively cheap. We're talking about like $10. Oh, this video is not sponsored by anything, or any company, or Udemy, or Blender. But I will talk about Udemy in another video. So just remember that you have to keep practicing Blender after you learn of its function. I myself got started with Blender this year by forcing myself to continuously create simple 3D model of different programming and tag logos. which are originally 2D image. So I have to come up with different 3D versions in my head and then draw them in Blender. It was quite fun. And I already made a video about it, so you can go watch that video. In terms of my inspiration over modeling those logos, I think I would save for another video. You'll hear that a lot because I do have a schedule for this channel. So far, I haven't stopped yet. Next, I begin modeling simple low poly objects, such as plants and buildings and eventually characters. That will be usable in my first 3D games. And again, more on that later. So that's how I keep motivated to keep drawing 3D models, because I will actually use them in some capacity, such as my videos and future games. I think the important thing is to share. If you share what you do and then you get feedback, that will motivate you to keep going. And I can tell you right now, this loop of getting feedback and creating and getting feedback and creating is extremely addicting. It will help you grow as whatever you want to do, programming or 3D modeling. So all you have to do is try and share. Okay, that's it. There you go. You have every component you need to start 3D modeling. You have the proper laptop, the proper software, and the proper tutorial. What are you waiting for? So if you enjoyed this content, please comment and subscribe. And I will see you next time.